Well, the day has arrived for a historic meeting between two of the world's most powerful leaders, and optimism surrounds them both. President Trump and President Putin meeting face-to-face in Alaska later today. This will be the first time President Putin has set foot in American soil in 10 years. The hope is that the meeting will bring an end to an over 3-year war, one of the deadliest wars in Europe since World War II.
Now, President Putin also showing a rare optimism ahead of the Alaska meeting, praising the Trump administration, saying they are being, quote, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities. Russian and U.S. top officials last week to start the conversation. Russia's foreign minister hopes the progress will continue in Putin's meeting.
We never make predictions in advance. We know we have arguments and a clear, well-defined position. We will present it. A lot has already been done during Stephen Witkoff's visits. The president mentioned this, and Witkoff was speaking on behalf of President Trump. I hope that today, tomorrow, we will continue this very useful conversation.
But News Nation is learning the talks might not only center around the war. The Kremlin could include other issues in the talks, like economic ties with the U.S. and Europe, as well as nuclear arms control.
Most notably absent from today's meeting will be Ukrainian President Zelensky. President Trump saying there's a 25% chance this summit could fail, but if it succeeds, he will invite Zelensky to join the next meeting in Alaska. According to the UN, Ukraine is seeing a very grim milestone. 286 civilians were killed and another 1,300 injured last month.
Right, which is all very concerning. We want to bring this war to an end immediately. I think this is great that this is taking place. A lot of expectations, obviously. We don't want to get hopes up because nothing could come of it. Putin has proven to be a very difficult, shrewd negotiator for his side, which is to get as much value out of this as possible. We were in a bad position from the start. Trump recognizes this has been difficult. I think he said the other day that he thought this would be easier than it was, which is true. It's very difficult. But these are encouraging signs. And I know what's going to happen is that if they do get some deal, we'll hear a lot of whining and complaining from liberal, progressive, mainstream, hawkish defenders of Ukraine that, oh, Ukraine shouldn't have to give up a shred of territory and this is so bad. Okay, but that's what it's going to take to end the war. So I don't know, what other option do we have at this point but to concede that Russia is probably going to take the territory it conquered, and then maybe we have a security guarantee for the rest of Ukraine that stops Russia from doing this again in the future. I'll take it. I'll take it. I don't know what else we could get.
Look, I think people want this war to end. I'm one of those people. So A conversation is always necessary. I'm just worried that this has become a consistent now. I think this is the 5th time mocking of President Trump. And so it's less of, oh, I didn't think this was going to happen, and more like the world expected this to happen. I think when you look at what Russia did overnight, they dropped 2 ballistic missiles and 97 drones over Ukraine the night before a big meeting. He's done this the day after a big meeting with President Trump. He's constantly doing something that shows, well, I'm not going to stop. So basically take what I'm offering or nothing. And I think that is just showing a show of power. As we talk about this big meeting, he's over there killing more civilians and doing it even more aggressively than, let's say, a week before, while the whole world is watching. And so what message does that send, I think, to be an American? Across 13 locations you're bombing, and then you're going to go sit down with Trump and talk about how energetic he is about the meeting. And the key person missing there is Zelensky, who has been, wildly overlooked in a lot of this process, because it's like, yeah, like you're saying, he's not in a position of power to say it's what you want, but he is closer to our NATO allies that maybe want something different than what Russia wants. And so I think President Trump should be, keen on making sure that he's having first and foremost conversations with our allies to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're telling Putin is a sustainable and acceptable solution, not just, okay, Putin, whatever you want, come to this meeting, because we might as well not even met. Just give him or it's not our choice to give, right? Zelensky has to make the choice, and he's not even in the meeting. So, it's kind of like a lot going on surrounding this that doesn't make it as pleasant and as, you said he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. It doesn't, Trump does. I don't think it makes it as like tied in a bow as it might look if you're just watching this meeting. Look at everything surrounding it.
I mean, it's Zelensky's choice in that he gets to decide what his country wants to do. But I've heard that line, some kind of never Trump Republican defender of Ukraine, I can't remember who, tweeted something like, Trump doesn't get to decide how much of Ukraine is up for sale. It's Zelensky. If they want to fight on, they get to. Well, that's true, but we've also been arming them and giving them money. So we then also get to decide, well, they can keep fighting. That's up. They have the right to do that. They don't have to do. Trump's not the president of Ukraine. He's the president of the United States, and the United States can say, we're not going to continue helping you if you're going to have to go it alone. So while it's true that Ukraine does get to decide, given the level of support we give them and the European Union that NATO alliance gives them, it really is actually up to us.
But we're kind of then also in some ways abandoning everyone in Europe that looks to us and is part of NATO for support in backing causes that they agree with.
It's not abandonment, it's realism.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, but if we step out, like right now, just because Zelensky's not making the same choice that we are, but mind you, on the back end of that, we're having sit-down meetings with Putin, like, you should be able to make these firm decisions. It looks like we are kind of just stepping away from something that we kind of committed to with funds, right? Once you give money, you committed to. We're not, yes, Ukraine's not in NATO, and yes, we're not required to support them, but we're like knee-deep in this thing, alongside them saying that they are not the aggressor. And so if we're going to either follow through with that or just look like we made a poor choice across two administrations and look like the weakest link, and also have our European allies very upset with us, probably as Russia creeps in closer to NATO territory.
Oh, the French will be offended? Oh, no.
Yeah, they'll be suing the U.S. and Candace Owens.
Trump is about to accomplish, the comparison to Biden, it's insane what he is pulling off compared to the last administration. The last administration was prepared to just keep writing checks. Oh, yeah, good luck, Ukraine. You're going to do great. Go get him, kid. As their country was destroyed and taken over and their people slaughtered. Like, that was the last administration's plan. Trump is actually trying to get people in a room to come up with a plan to stop the wanton slaughter. It's such an improvement. It's amazing to me. It's amazing to me.
Well, I think the plan was Ukraine show a show of force and be consistent in that. And I think Russia was largely caught off guard by how much they were pushing back, right? Like it's a back and forth between Russia and Ukraine. Obviously, Russia is the aggressor and the much bigger entity. But at the end of the day, Ukraine, and many people have been saying this, have been holding, but they've been holding their own. And I think that Russia wasn't expecting. They thought they were just going to conquer all because this NATO was hanging over their head and they were upset about this whole thing. And they just thought they were going to do what they wanted to do. And it didn't go as Russia planned. You have to admit that. This is not exactly what they thought. I thought this would be like a moot issue, and as such a superpower, they probably thought that they can get to the finish line much quicker. Since they're here still negotiating, it's not ideal for them either. They've spent a ton of money. They do have sanctions. They are worried about trade around the world. That's part of the talks that are going to be on the table with Trump today. So, if we do impose sanctions and make it harder for them to, do commerce and all things with us, then won't that be an incentive to say, okay, you have your 10 list of demands, just like when you're going for a job. You have 10 lists of things that you love. Well, guess what? We're not going to give you 20% stock option in the company. We're not, but we will give you your salary that you requested. Like, this is called a negotiation, not just saying, okay, Putin, whatever you want.
The situation is like in Game of Thrones when they're discussing the siege of River Run and the defense of River Run. Brynden Blackfish says to Jaime Lannister, but I have provisions to last for years. Do you have years, Kingslayer? Ukraine does not have years left, even though they could put up a defense. So we have to have a negotiation now.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Next up, Senator Josh Hawley is calling for an investigation into Meta, a new report shining light on some apparently inappropriate guidelines, which have since been taken down. We'll talk about it after the break. Don't go anywhere.